let's get pre-qualifying underway as the track here at the Nürburgring is now dry for the moment in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS in the 4th round of the Endurance Cup. 11 Audis, 10 Mercedes, 9 Porsches, 8 Lamborghinis, 7 BMWs, 4 McLarens, 4 Ferraris, the Bullet Aston Martin and a partridge in a pear tree. The track temperature is 22.7 degrees Celsius, very high humidity. There could be some rain spoiling the fun a little bit during the course of this pre-qualifying session, but we'll bring you every single second of the action. Gemma Scott is in the pit lane. Here in the commentary box, it's myself, Jake Sanson, and John Watson beside me.
Beautiful afternoon here at Nürburgring. For the moment, we've got 90 of those moments. Cars are out on track, getting basically their out laps all together. So let's wait and see. There is the original chicane. You can just see where those marker cones are. That was a quicker chicane. Now we've got the slower version, which slows the cars down before they come into that final turn onto start-finish straight. And Rob Collard is out on track. Now, Rob Collard, stalwart of GT racing and British touring car racing, is a man who needs to be careful because he has got 2 behavioural penalty points. One more, and they'll get a 5-grid drop at the next event. So Rob, along with another 5 or 6, I'll not mention them right now, unless the names do pop up, but just have to be aware that any indiscretion might get a penalty, which would then see the car drop 5 grid positions. And as the car drops, it's not the driver is the one that accrues the penalty, but it's the car that suffers the penalty.
Indeed it is. Speaking of penalties, there have just been a couple of minor transgressions that have come to light in between the 2 sessions. Gerhard Twarasser of the GRT Grasser Racing number 58 crew picked up a €500 fine this morning for missing last night's driver's briefing. It wasn't intentional, he was actually competing over at the Hockenheim ring just down the road. I said just down the road, it does take a fair bit to get there from here. And Dino McDonald, the Scottish driver, was fined €300 and a BWP for exceeding pit lane speed limit at 8:30 this morning, straight out of the box.
In fairness to Gerhard Twarasser, he did advise stewards on Friday. I was there with him when the information had come through that he was at Hockenheim, but nevertheless he was deemed to have missed it, and consequently he does get a penalty, and there we go. Back out on track. 71. What a gorgeous AF Corsa. Francorchamps Motors Ferrari, Davide Rigo, Daniel Serra, Antonio Fuoco, and it's Daniel Serra behind the wheel.
So we get ourselves back up to speed once again as the Ferrari dips into the hairpin in the hope that they're going to have a stronger run, even more so than they did this morning. It was obviously a very good run for Ferrari by comparison to what we've seen from them at the same stage earlier in the weekends. But there's still quite a lot of long faces at Ferrari in general this weekend as they're trying to understand and get to know this 296. Obviously the first year for a new GT car at Fanatec GT World Challenge level is always going to have teething troubles, but the Ferrari does have flashes of brilliance in it, and it has had its moments over 2023 so far, in the hope that we're going to see some more glory days for the Ferrari, and certainly the number 71 pushing the limits already, Daniel Serra. Let's have a replay of, whoops, that is not quite the racetrack for the Lamborghini drifting off the road there.
It's a very interesting option to take, but it's not a very productive or quick one. So you make your way back onto the track and hopefully don't spoil anybody else's run at the time. So that's off the top of the circuit over turn 11. And here we are back to live action. Currently Maxime Martin fastest of 1:56.2. That's a pretty impressive first out lap. Best lap this morning, when track conditions started in the rain but ended up drying out, was Timo Bergoslawski, 88 Mercedes Acurus ASP, 1:55.1. But even that was not as quick as we saw on Friday afternoon. But Mirko Bortolotti, purple sector 1, green sector 2. What's he going to end up with?
Well, potentially a purple sector 3 as well, because he's been working very hard indeed over the course of his outlap. Now, the reason the track is so busy, of course, at this stage of pre-qualifying is that there is that threat of rain in the air, and the cars want to make sure that they get some dry running in. As across the line, Bortolotti goes at 1:55.6, so that's already 0.3 of a second off the pace of Acker on the 99 Audi, which is currently the fastest man out on track on his first flying lap.
Right, okay, Mirko's going to come out of the final turn, and the man is on it. So much so he runs wide and clips the gravel on the exit of the corner. That again might have shaved, well, it wouldn't have shaved the 0.3 that he's done on Alex Arca, who currently is quickest in the 99 Audi. But it's all fractions of seconds, and if you put those fractions of seconds around all the turns here at Nürburgring together, you can probably find yourself maybe gaining half or 3/4 of a second. It's that competitive.
Well, such is the urgency to get some dry running out that there is not a single car still left in the pits on its first run. A couple of drivers have come back into the pits having left it, but certainly Acker is pushing hard to see what that Audi can do. There is the 88, the car that was fastest in this morning's free practice session, trying to get up to speed again. That's the 88 Mercedes. Raffaele Marcello is behind the wheel. We had a brief word with him over the course of lunch, but this man, Alex Acker, pushing very hard.
He may well get himself into the 154s if he can continue that pace. He's up a 10th in the first and second sectors, and he's got a clear run through this final sector. Comes across start-finish line, and Alex Arca waiting for his time to be confirmed.
Oof.
Waiting for it to be confirmed. He just misses out by a 70,000th of a second from being the first driver in this afternoon to break the, well, I would say the 155-second lap barrier.
So here's Aurélien Panis, the Boutsen VDS driver, son of the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix winner Olivier. And Aurélien Panis doing a good job for the Boutsen VDS team. In fact, that car has had a pretty solid start to things. Quite a few teams actually doing their 2 or 3 banker laps and then coming straight back into the pits again. There's Sheldon van der Linde in the WRT BMW, and they've done just that. They've done an installation lap essentially and then brought it straight back in again.
Well, I mean, Fabian Schiller, by the way, has gone faster again by 56,000th of a second over Alex Arca. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say your man Nick Yellerley in the 98 BMW, the Rover Racing, has found himself with a bit of pace. We didn't see the BMs to the 4, but we've got Dan Harper currently in 4th in the 998 Rover Racing, and the sister car Nick Yellerley in 7th place. So 3 BMWs in the top 11, Maxime Martin in the 46. That's the car, of course. We call it the Valentino Rossi BMW, but it is actually WRT BMW, driven by Valentino Rossi and supported by Maxime Martin.
So there is the 57. That is the Mercedes of Indy Doncia, as he tries to get himself up to speed again, following in the wheel tracks of the WRT BMW number 30, I think that is, running through in position. That is the Simonau Williams Critton car. But Indy Doncia inside the top 20 for the time being, but could really do with another flyer to put himself further forward. Fabian Schiller goes quickest again in the first sector, a 54.60, as Alessio Rivera in the Ferrari goes 4th, having done a 17.9 in the third sector. That's big pace from the Ferrari.
It's important because the last sector can often be the sector where the pace falls off, especially if you're on the freshest or maybe a set of new rubber, because it's at the end of a lap that you tend to run out of grip. So Fabian Schiller continuing. Again, purple sector, first sector, so he has got good pace and he's got consistency and continuity. So coming up to the conclusion of sector 2, green, purple, or, well, fractionally down, 47,000 second down, and it sort of slightly undoes that excellent purple first sector, but consolidates, probably not going to be challenged by anybody as he comes up to conclude. Could fractionally improve, but more than likely his best lap will still be that 155.014.
And you're absolutely right. He's just done a 155.041, so there's only 0.03 of a second between this lap and the previous one, as there is the Trezor Orange Attempto Audi being pushed back into the garage. So Alex Acker, interesting, they were second quickest on a 155.0, and they've parked it. Is that just saving tyres, essentially?
No, the car's gone into the garage, they'll be doing something. The reason they push it back into the garage is that they can do something, because only 2 engineers, mechanics are allowed to work in the pit lane. So if you want to do a substantial change to the car that would involve more than 2 people, stick it back in the garage. As many as you like can work upon it. So I think that's what the team have done, and there's no big stress or fuss or rush. If there was, they wouldn't be pushing the car back into the garage.
So the ComTU Racing Audi team have taken the same tack with Finlay Hutchison, the British driver, in the Art of Canada Audi number 12. So they're obviously making adjustments that they need to do. It looks like they're not just doing bits and pieces with the tyres. It looks like they're making adjustments to the brake or maybe even the suspension geometry there as well. In comes Klaus Bachler in the 911 Pure Racing Porsche. Now, where are they on pace? 5th at the moment, so already a good start for Klaus Beckler. He actually did a 54.9 in the first sector. Pretty good pace from the Porsche all round. And there is the Rove BMW coming towards us. That's the number 98 car. There is the Optima McLaren. Dean McDonald is on personal bests in sectors 1 and 2. They've been mighty quick this year.
Yeah, I mean, Dean rode the curb on the exit of the chicane and tried to keep the car pointing straight, did a good job. Personal best, first and second sector should improve. Yes, he does. The young lad from Scotland has made it up to third quickest at 155.717. And again, indication that the performance we've seen from McLaren throughout the season has been impressive. Back to 71 Ferrari. Whereabouts is it in the timing and scoring? Looking down and down and down and down and down. Well, currently 36 Daniel Serra still on board. Personal best by just over a quarter of a second up to the second sector line. Goes across personal best by 0.3 of a second. So he's picked up just over half a second on this lap. And assuming he gets a clean exit, which he does, out of the chicane, all he has to do is go through this final turn. Don't overrun. He exits fractionally early, coming out of pit straight, but nevertheless, and see an improvement in time and an improvement in position all the way up to third from 37th.
That's more like it for Ferrari. They've definitely done their homework in between sessions. There is the 99 of Acker. They're going to go straight back out onto the circuit again then. And into the pits comes one of the Mercedes cars. There's the 11 ComTU car in as well. That's Christopher Haase. So they are in 29th position at the moment, but they were mighty quick in the first session, of course, with Haase, Fred Vervish, and their new recruits, the young Belgian talent, Kobe Powells.
I noticed a set of rotors in that Audi either being about to be fitted or has been removed. So whatever was going on that particular Audi, it involved a brake change. Now, normally you wouldn't have to change your rotors, but if they're preparing a set of brakes for the race, they might want to bed those in and then have them nice and fresh and ready for Sunday's race.
Tricky middle sector for the Ritronik Porsche of Thomas Preining. He manages to go 14th on a 1:55.9, but on that lap he was just slightly off that. Here's the Lamborghini Bortolotti, still looking good for the top 6. He's currently in 8th position. Again, it's that middle sector that's costing a lot of teams time here, as Panis has looked pretty strong in that second split in the Audi. Coming out of the final turn, we'll have to see what the Boots and VDS Audi can do across the line, but Panis has been quick in sector 1, quick in sector 2. Are we going to go top 3 here, potentially, for Panis? He does go third, 1:55.228, following in the wheel tracks of the number 2 get speed of Lewandowski. So very nicely done there from Aurélien Panis.
And Lorenzo Patrese has taken over the wheel of the 99 from Alex Acker. So see what the young Italian star will do. So the team's working their way through. Just another driver who's suddenly leaping up towards the sharper end of the field is Sheldon van der Linde. We didn't see an awful lot of the 32 WRT BMW M4. So that car is picking up pace. Still Dan Harper in the 998 BMW for Rover Racing is the quickest of all the brand from Munich.
So we've got Fabian Schiller leading the way, Patrese in second. Serra has come up to third again in the Ferrari in the 1:55.1 lap time that he's just set, so that splits them once more. Panis is there in 4th position. Patrese and Panis in the top 5. The 1990s have called. They want your drivers back. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and sons of, and sons of, and sons of. Christopher Mies, what a little star Christopher Mies has been over all the years in his time with Audi, and a wonderful, wonderful asset to the Audi family, and comes across the line. 6th position, so that's an improvement, 1:55.643. Still nobody has reached into the 1:54s, or we're just about 0.4 of a second away.
He's a very safe pair of hands in the Audi, isn't he, Christopher Mies? If you snapped his arm in half, it would have Vorsprung durch Technik written through it like Blackpool Rock. He is absolutely embedded in the Four Rings team.
1:54.7 was the time that the 998 is credited, that time's credited to Dan Harper. You thought it might have been to Neil Verhagen.
I thought it was Neil Verhagen yesterday who set the time.
And scoring, it says, it shows because they emboss the driver. So anyway, the BMW 998, that was quickest. So Fabian Schiller's time is probably within just under 0.3 of a second, rather than that enormous 0.4 I had suggested. So here we see the 2 Garage 59 McLarens line astern coming out.
And we just saw Chris Froggatt getting himself ready to go in the Sky Tempesta McLaren, as there is the number 46 BMW in the foreground. And that is the car that is currently being piloted by Maxime Martin. There's the number 6 Lamborghini, the K-Pax car of Sandy Mitchell. Boy, does he know how to turn it on when he's got the pace underneath him. He's personal best in sectors 1 and 2. Expect him not to sit in 17th position for long. He gets out of the final turn. Plenty of curb taken there.
Yeah, but he looks, he's on top of the job. And Sandy Mitchell goes 6th quickest. I mean, I look at the body language of a car, and that tells me, so going back to the old school style of driving, how that car is operating and how the driver in that car is making it work the way it appears on screen. And Sandy Mitchell certainly looks, as Christopher Reese makes a late dive. Oh, that's a very late dive, but that's what you do in a race. You make a very quick late dive in. But going back to Sandy Mitchell, if you are hooked up with your car, the two things, the car and the driver, come together, and you can see on screen a driver that is comfortable and happy with the car and its handling.
So obviously this is a good opportunity to test the pit stop procedure as well for the drivers. Fabian Schiller up in the top, Patrese in second. Up comes Tuarasa, fresh from Hockenheim yesterday. Here he is at the Nürburgring, and he's done a 1:55.1 as there goes Mies into the pits alongside the orange Trezor Audi number 40.
Let's have another look at Christopher Mies. This would be what I would describe as a racing context entry. Runs it out to the very edge, almost runs along the barrier, but now he's got to get the car slowed down to 50 kilometers per hour down the pit lane. Otherwise, ka-ching, ka-ching, another fine to the team.
Well, it's great to get these practices in. You need to drill that, of course, as well, because otherwise you're going to go into the pit stops tomorrow cold. So the boys are doing essentially a practice race pit stop.
First car into the 1:54s by a substantial margin. Puccini in the Lamborghini 1:54.488. The magic 1:54.7 has been smashed, and it's a Lamborghini that's done it.
There you go. There's another Lamborghini, Clement Schmidt, trying to get to the same sort of pace, and it looks like they're going to get there. There's a lot of gravel left on the exit of the Vidal chicane already in this session, so somebody's obviously dropped it as Schmidt goes across the line 4th, just in behind Lorenzo Patrese, who's done a 1:55.0, or is that still Alex Acker's lap? I think it might still be the lap set by Alex Acker. But Clement Schmidt comes up to 4th for definite in front of Tuarasa. Then Serra in the Ferrari. Makowiecki has come up strong on the Porsche as well. Aurelien Panis, Ayanchen Guven now in 10th position. As up to 2nd comes Dean McDonald in the McLaren. Look at that, a 1:54.8 from Dino.
I'm not surprised in the least. He is outstanding. And that is a very, very strong time. Okay, it's 0.3 of a second away from Puccini. Nevertheless, he's gotten through the glass ceiling into a 1:54 second lap. And one would like to hope that maybe there's a little bit more. I mean, he did have that fastest final sector on that last lap. So, again, indicative of where the McLaren is. It's sustaining its balance, its grip all the way through a lap.
Well, the car collection Porsche is under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. So is the number 40 Trezor Orange Audi for the 2nd time in this session. So we've only had 20 minutes out on track. There is Leo Puccini. So Puccini, who is currently the fastest car out on the circuit that we know, 1:54.488. And pretty quick in the first split. That car went about a 54.1, I think, in the first sector, so very quick indeed. There's Marvin Kirchhofer, actually purple in the 2nd sector for the Garage 59, number 159 McLaren, so this could be the top lap.
Absolutely, so Kirchhofer, who we know is highly, highly rated by the McLaren family and has gone purple, okay, by 0.003 of a second. 27th, he goes, slots into 4th. He's still the 2nd quickest McLaren. Dean McDonald still pulls that accolade in the 2nd position.
It's that 3rd sector that's catching a few drivers out in the early stages of this pre-qualifying session, and of course it's frantic because they don't want to lose track time before the possibility of rain hits the circuit again. Now Dean McDonald is going to get impeded here by the 24 car collection Porsche off the final turn. They were already down in sector 2 as Dino blinkers the headlights to try and get the Porsche out of the way, and it remains 2nd, but no improvement on the lap, a 1:55.0 that time around.
When you consider that he did lose time because of traffic, he was only 0.2 of a second down over his fastest second quickest lap. So anyway, good effort. Oh, and Dames getting their elbows out. Or are they being the ones that are being lent upon by the Mercedes? We never see the conclusion of that little squabble, but Fabian Schiller back on it again. Green, purple, and is he going to go topple that is push Puccini down to 2nd? Wait. Yes, he has. 154.173. And that is again over 0.3 of a second now ahead of Puccini in second place.
Wow, it's looking likely we'll get into the 153s today, the way things are currently progressing. Certainly the theoretical best is a 153.9, but the session best is a 154.1. It's genuinely possible. Speed of car 157 in pit lane under investigation now. That is the Winward Racing car, I do believe, of Mikkel Born. So that's Niklas Born, sorry, that's not gone well. Here's Kirchhofer. Personal best in 1 and 2.
He needs another green, and can he see if there is something available? Or he actually would like a purple to bring Kirchhofer up through the field. Dennis Lind, by the way, has just hopped into 10th place. So where will the 159 McLaren end up? Third.
Yeah, third is not bad. Oh, hang on, that's not the racetrack. We've gone clean off there in the middle sector, haven't we? That's sector 2. So the Audi's come off the road and gone back into the racing line again. Fortunately, well out of everybody's way. It's the 99 car. That's Lorenzo Patrese who went off there in the middle sector.
Yeah,
Let's see how he did it.
Oh, did he ever go off? I mean, wow. I can't get enough wows out. I think that Lorenzo going backwards almost as fast as he was going forwards as he came up to turn 10 will have got any cobwebs that he had in his eyes well and truly cleared out. That was a mighty moment for the young Italian, and I suspect the tires have got a little bit like threepenny bits. And for those that are not old enough to know what a threepenny bit is, it was a coin of the realm in the UK. It was half a sixpence, a threepenny bit.
There you go. But fortunately for the team, there's no gravel at that point on the circuit anymore, because that would have been a very long job for the mechanics. He was lucky he didn't hit anything there, but yes, a very...
If he'd hit anything, that car would have been well and truly, I mean, especially if you're going backwards, well, it would give the driver a lot of protection, but it would do a lot of no good to the transmission, to the engine, and in fact, well, it didn't happen, so there's no point in surmising.
Boots and VDS crew getting ready for a stop. Aurelien Panis is in the car. That looks like Adam Inteki is going to get into it. As we watch Kirchhofer again, still piling on the speed. Third position, 154.521 for his car at the moment. Down in sector 1, though, by over a quarter of a second. Even further down in the second sector. Who's on the rise, though?
He's coming in. No, he's not. He's staying out. And he's running behind the 93 McLaren. I don't know really what he's going to gain by doing that, other than maybe just learning something about how does my car handle in traffic. Where can I find a way around a similar pace car? That's the 93 Sky Tempesta McLaren. And Kirchhofer directly behind.
Well, Patrese has come into the pits. That is for sure, after the flat spotting of his tyres. And we already saw that the pit stop was scheduled for the Butson VDS car. But watching the two McLarens out on the circuit together, they obviously share a garage bay, and they're very different in appearance. Here's Christopher Haase. Now, they are at the bottom of the standings at the moment, having only done 5 laps on track. So Christopher Haase doing a good job there in the Audi, the ComTU Racing Machine number 11. They're down at dead last at the moment on a 158.9, but we know how quick that car has gone from this morning. So Christopher Haase, half a second down in the first split. That's still quicker than they've managed to go. So expect the 52nd position to not be held by them in the next 90 seconds.
I think that's a no-brainer. As the 88 Mercedes makes its way back out, and I tell you what, nothing spared on the exit of the pit lane. So whoever is behind the wheel, just waiting to get an update on who's behind the wheel of the 88. Timing and scoring, whereabouts are you?
Look at that, Haas has gone half a second down on the fastest time, but that's a personal best, so this is definitely going to be at least halfway through the field, possibly even top 10, based on where we're going at the moment. What is Haas going to do? 19th. So it's halfway through the field plus some change. But Christopher Haase, 19th position at the moment in the ComTU Audi.
So more work to be done. Christopher Haase, have no fear, is more than capable of dragging that car up into the top 10.
I'll tell you who I'm quite impressed by at the moment, actually. Ferrari, based on yesterday and this morning. Antonio Fuoco's gone 8th on a 155.1. Rivera's in 16th on a 155.7. They're looking much more competitive this time. There is Alex Peroni in the Get Speed Mercedes. This is the team's home race, of course. Their headquarters is, well, just down the road from here, quite literally, as they're getting themselves ready for a run into the final turn, almost tripping over the K-Pax Lamborghini that was setting itself up for a fast lap. Now, will that have impeded Alex Peroni's time? Will that have cost him some ground? Well, not too much, 12th position.
Yeah, he gains fractionally, which is what it's all about. I was looking up and down timing and scoring. It was hidden at the top of the second page. The Jules going on behind the wheel, and the car is presently 36th. Doesn't really make a lot of difference because it's not representative. So they've done an outlap, and they've done a run, and Jules Gounod has been put in behind the wheel. So maybe we will see the true potential as we look at the 157 coming up into the final turn. So sweeps in as the Winward Racing. Mercedes comes across the line, currently 28th, 14th. That's a worthwhile gain.
It certainly is. I love the way that the car travels through the corner like that. It almost looks slow, but it's not slow, it's smooth. And that's where you make that massive gain.
Well, the one thing, if you over-abuse, especially your tyres, you're going to go slower. I mean, that's a fundamental fact of life. So you have to use the tyre to its maximum, and no, that's the point. Now, if you want to go quicker, maybe you have to make a change to the car or something that, but don't, if you overdrive the tyre, you're just going to end up just abusing the tyre.
Nicolas Crutten going very quickly in both sectors 1 and 2 in the number 30 WRT BMW. On the curb, a lot of curb taken there, but that's perfectly acceptable. No worries at all with that out of the final turn. And this is definitely going to go faster than a 34th best time. This will be in the 155s. It's not quite, 156.1 in fact for Crutten. Looks like he lost quite a fair bit of time in the third sector at the end of it, maybe riding the curb. Here's Bortolotti. This is going to be potentially top 10 material for the GRT Grasser Lamborghini out of the final turn. There you go, 13th, just missing out.
And who's gone 5th quickest? The Stuart Parker Racing Porsche. Jovis in 5th place, 154.9. I mean, where are these times coming from?
Yeah, very good run from Kian Jewis. I still think of him as a whippersnapper karting cadet from about 10 years ago, but no, very much plugged and played into the Parker Racing team now. A very solid and capable racing driver. As out onto the circuit again goes the number 5 Optimum McLaren. Who's that coming towards us? There, Porsche flying through. There are the Lamborghinis, the GRT Grasser and K-Pax cars. And there is the Thieber Mercedes coming towards us. They're currently 26th. Rima Jafali, who was actually going wheel to wheel a little earlier on with the Iron Dames Lamborghini. Not entirely sure who was in it at the time. Certainly at the moment, that car is being driven by Sarah Bovey as we're looking at the 62 Porsche. Warming up the tyres, Kian Jewis all the way down to 40th again. So that time was clearly disallowed.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a disappointment for Kian Jewis. I mean, it jumped out 5th quickest. Wow. And there's one of the Mercedes Mad Panda. It looks like it's well and truly, you know, I don't know quite what went wrong there because he's come on to start finish straight, well off the pace that you need, so it gets over, pulls over. I think he may have a problem. Well, he missed the entrance into the pit lane.
He almost rejoined the circuit from the Nordschleife, didn't he?
He was certainly well and truly off where he ought to be. So maybe there was an issue, and here we go, here we go, here we go. So he probably did, yes, he did. There's no probably about it. He missed pit lane entrance because of a very nice pirouette. Well, a lot of style marks there, but none from the team. That's a set of tyres that are likely to be flat spotted. And he's got to do another lap. There it is, the car making its way around, understandably at a very much reduced pace.
Well, Magnus Gustafsson saw Kobe Powell's pirouette from this morning and clearly thought anything you can do, I can do better. And unfortunately, it hasn't really helped the team at all. Now, there is the 88. Here we go. The team that was fastest in practice this morning. Timo Boguslavski was the man who set that initial pace. They're currently on a 156.3. They will not be for long as Timo Boguslavski's been warming up the tyres and trying to get heat and temperature into the brakes. So now as they go down the hill, this is where we're going to see what the Mercedes can do.
I mean, a lap ago, that the transponder indicated it was Jules Gounod behind the wheel. It's now reset, and it's giving us that Timo Boguslavski, the man who ended up actually quickest of all this morning in that session that began in the rain and ended up with a virtual dry track. So down at the far end of the circuit, are you going to find a way around a car that you might feel you're potentially quicker than? In fact, if you take the results from this morning, he was quicker than.
Well, they're being held up at the moment. 56.1 for the first sector, not indicative of a Mercedes going full chat. So clearly, Timo Boguslavski would like to get past the Black Bull Lamborghini in front of him. Come on, man, get out of the way. Can't you see I'm in the fastest car on the grid? He wants to get past so that he can have a clear lap. And look, there's gravel there as well.
Terrible. I mean, the gravel right in the middle of the exit of turn 11, and that's the result of somebody going off track and dumping a shed. I mean, that's got to be, well, look at it. Look at the gravel. That is, I mean, I would almost want to sort of get rid of that, because if somebody gets onto it, it's going to see their car skating well and truly off track. I mean, there's sufficient amount of gravel there that should... Say no more, John.
You don't want to get yourself into hot water, do you?
Oh, cold water's bad enough.
So we obviously saw Lorenzo Petresi going off earlier. I don't think that's the reason for the gravel. However, this might be... Oh, yes, that might be quite a decent reason.
The gravel is higher in the corner. It's earlier than that particular... That's the OB unit picking up incidents of anything on board with Boguslavski into turn 3, gets the wheel well and truly, hooks it over, then back through 4, and on his way.
His last lap was a 1:57.3, so clearly getting quite frustrated. 1:57.93, sorry. So let's see how Timo Boguslavski can nail this together as he works his way through.
Yes, down through turn 6. So again, runs to the limit, but stays 2 wheels on track. Then the run down the hill. Then the big break, probably about the biggest break really. I mean, turn 1's a fairly major break, but this is a downhill break, so a lot of weight transfer to the front of the car, so you've got to have your brake balance. Just au point. He's trying so hard to get up through there, flat. And it's a bit of a stretch. And he might say that was flat, but if you look at the engineers and get the readout in the telemetry, they say, no, Timo, you had a little lift there, but drivers always think they're flat.
Just a little feather at that point of the course, maybe.
Just a fraction. It's almost more than taking the pressure off than it is actually a lift as such.
Patrick Niederhauser's put the Audi into 14th while we're watching Timo Boguslavski commit into the brakes. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
He's driving well at the minute, Timo Boguslavski. Into the final turn, he's got a personal best by a substantial margin, but he lost 1.1 seconds in sector 1. So he's net about 3/10 down. So we wait to see where he goes across the line.
39th again.
My goodness.
Still
My
hasn't
goodness.
improved. He's getting frustrated, isn't he? You could see it when he came across the line, looking at the readout. He wasn't happy, was he?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, that 39th, you've got to be joking. I mean, he did this morning, that last lap was a 56.3. This morning he did a 55.1.
Well, calm.
Now, either there's a lot more fuel on board, or they've given them the worst set of the Pirelli tyre that they've got left in their allocation.
Well, there is the 87 car, pushing very hard indeed as well, about to finish the lap.
Max Goetz behind the wheel.
Maxi Goetz, one of the most prolific GT racers of the last 20 years. He's always got something extra up his sleeve. Unfortunately, on this occasion, he doesn't change position. He stays 23rd. So, interestingly, this morning, it was the BMWs that were off the pace. I don't want to say the Mercedes are off the pace, because they're not, because the Almanar car, the 777, Lucas Stoltz, is still up in the top spot.
Yes, that's the car, the 777. Fabian Schiller did the time. So Lucas Stoltz behind the wheel. And the Lamborghini Beretta is behind the wheel of that car. And the 159 McLaren, which has now got Benjamin Goethe behind the wheel. So there's Sam de Haan likewise is behind the wheel of the number 5. So maybe each driver has been given approximately 30 minutes, because we're just over the first 30 minutes of this 90-minute session.
Here we go. Patrick Niederhauser has taken over from Christopher Mies in the number 25 Audi, the Santalog Junior Team car. Patrick Niederhauser, very talented young man, working his way through the junior ladder and then got himself into the Audi setup in sports cars. And he has done a fantastic job with Santalog Junior this year. He's definitely one of the most reliable pairs of hands. Look at the commitment through turn 3.
You look at Patrick Niederhauser, and if you were a team looking forward to 2024 and you're running in this championship, you would put Patrick Niederhauser, because of course the factory Audi support is concluding at the end of the season. So depending on what happens to the Audi teams, whether they continue with the car and find a way to get support from the factory drivers. We don't know that's an issue, but certainly Patrick Niederhauser would be on a number of teams' lists for must look at, have a chat with, and sit down and see if you're interested.
So Niederhauser currently in 14th, following in the wheel tracks of the Sky Tempest, the McLaren through the chicane. Still pushing hard, committing through there, hoping that the McLaren gets out of the way. Decides to go for it anyway. That won't have cost too much time, actually, but it's changed the radius of the turn-in, because the McLaren was to his right, and he's had to turn in a little bit tighter than he would have liked to.
I think what you're trying to say, Jake, is he was compromised.
Exactly.
So he was compromised, and that's what everybody can turn around and say, we were compromised. In the meantime, Max Gertz wasn't compromised. He's gone third quickest.
He has indeed.
And so that time being disallowed.
It
He's
has
vanished off the screen.
Yeah, it's vanished off the screen and back down to 23rd. So Maxi Gertz, unfortunately, that time disallowed almost as quickly as it's put on the screen.
Yeah, Niederhauser struggling a little bit with a bit of a sudden oversteer coming through. So goes up to 9th. In spite of that, got his personal best in that final sector. So that puts Niederhauser now into the top 10. And he is precisely 1 second slower than the 777 Mercedes. That time was set by Fabian Schüller a little earlier on board with the Sky Tempesta. Chris Froggatt again. So comes through the corner, which in the session this morning he ran wide at, but that was a much different track conditions.
Yeah, the car looks much more dialed in now, doesn't he? He seems to have a lot more confidence now that the track has dried out. He can really stretch the legs of this McLaren.
Do you remember the comment I made as to why some drivers were struggling more maybe than others? And I put it down to probably, but not certainly, that teams were running a dry car setup. They hadn't bothered because they knew the track would dry out, so why start making a change? And obviously I think in dry conditions the car operates in a much more appropriate manner.
You have to think about what's going to happen on Sunday, and of course the weather forecast says that there is less chance of rain. It's predicted to be dry tomorrow, so obviously that's where the team will want to be focusing in terms of the setup. So here comes the Ferrari towards us. That is the car currently running in 44th position. I think that's Tatimuno Lopez in his Ferrari, making his way through. There is the 21 though, the ComTU car. Still trying to work its way up the ranks. That is Nicolas Bayart at the wheel this time. Their best lap is a 1:56.1, 2 seconds adrift from Lucas Stoltz in the 777 Mercedes.
Yes, so Patrick Niederhauser consolidates his position in 9th. So we're going to have a little look back. Our producer's caught something which he thinks you, the audience at home, should have a look at.
Righto.
So whereabouts is a turn 6? So the 21 Audi comes down. So wait, it's coming up. Here it is. Side by side up into turn 10. Oh, a little bit of a fishtail from the Ferrari.
It's not racing, guys.
Well, I don't know whether that was a slap or a fishtail when you got on the brakes.
I mean, I'm hoping that was unintentional, because
I would put it down as unintentional.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, what do I know? I'm only 95 in the shade.
Well, the ComTU is bouncing over the curbs at full chat. Nicolas Bayart hoping to get out of the second timing page, because they're now 36th position. He's done 55.2 in the first sector. That's more like it in terms of raw pace from the ComTU Audi.
Fastest BMW in the meantime. Look at the gravel. Oh, it's getting worse up at turn 11.
It's getting a bit of a ribbon across there, isn't it?
Fastest BMW, Maxime Martin, in the car that is identified as Dali's car, number 46.
Well, they do say, don't they, you're only as good as your last race. And of course, the last race in Fanatec GT World Challenge was a win for the 46. So they did a fantastic job in the second race at Misano in the sprint. An endurance win is going to be very different, of course, and they're hoping for that with Augusto Farfus teaming up once again with Martin and Rossi. Here is the 911 Pure Racing Porsche. It's Malikin who is behind the wheel. And there is the car collection Porsche that leads the Pro-Am Championship by quite some distance. Ivan Giacomo is the Swiss driver behind the wheel, who's moving forward. Niederhauser's come up to 9th place now. Heinrich's brought the Porsche 96, the Vitronic car up into 14th. Maxime Martin's brought the BMW to 16th. No other changes really to keep an eye on for the moment, but here comes the car collection Porsche into another lap.
Okay, the 44 Porsche, Stefan Palette, is 10th quickest. That is the fastest of the Stuttgart, I mean the Zuffenhausen part of Stuttgart.
Oh, that'll have done it. Yeah, that really will have done it.
Well, it's certainly dragged. You can see it's on the exit, but where the gravel is, there's more, to me, in the middle of the racetrack.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that's a lot of gravel nevertheless. So there it is. And, I mean, I don't know, honestly, you know, sitting here looking at that, I'd get my bucket and spade out and take the kids down and put a paddling pool beside it and say, have fun, kids.
And if you're a team manager, you're thinking, come on, that's not really good enough, is it? Down to the braking zone for turn 1.
Sudden move by the 88 Mercedes coming down into turn 1. Boguslavski, where are they? That 88 up to? It's up to 26th. So Boguslavski still behind the wheel and barely just managing to match the time he set this morning. He's about a 10th down. In the meantime, the 777 Mercedes. Maro Engel now behind the wheel. So you had Stolz, now you got Engel. And that car still sitting happily as the quickest car for some reasonable amount of time now.
So Maro Engel up in first position, doing a grand job. Michele Beretta in the Iron Lynx Lamborghini, second place. That car really is going quickly here. They were fast this morning, fast this afternoon as well, second at the moment. Then Benjamin Goethe in the 159 McLaren. Sam de Haan having taken over the Optima McLaren. Here is the Trezor Audi at the moment. Dennis Marshall in the Trezor Orange Audi number 30. Oh, sorry, number 40. They're in 30th position, I should say. Of the movers and shakers, well, Barker has moved the Porsche forward in the number 55 car. So Barker is moving his way up the ranks.
But Dennis Marshall's got a lot of work to do. I mean, currently 30th. That's not representative of the pace of the driver, certainly, or the pace of the car. So again, it's probably the team doing a little bit of homework. Remember, it's tomorrow morning that we have qualifying, and that's going to be the point where the true pace of everybody is going to finally be exposed.
It's worth pointing out this car is under some scrutiny as well, because they've been under investigation twice in this session alone for pit lane speeding infringements. That's a headache.
Could be a headache, because if you get 3 behavioural warning points, then that would be a 5-position drop on the grid.
Florian Scholzer in the Get Speed Mercedes, heading out onto the circuit. At least you can tell those two cars apart now, because they've changed colours. They were both fluorescent yellow. Now the number 2 is orange, and the number 3 is still in its fluorescent yellow as we get ourselves ready for Jules Gounod, I believe.
Seat insert at the ready. It's interesting because I thought Jules Gounod and Timo Boguslavski were probably, I think Gounod is the taller of the two, but maybe the seat that Boguslavski has actually pushes him slightly further forward in the cockpit, and therefore Gounod needs a seat that allows him to sit slightly further back in the cockpit. Some of these cars, I mean the BMW notably, have got adjustable foot boxes, so the seat remains fixed, the foot box comes forward or back, and they can adjust the steering column up or down or in or out, just like your road-going BMW, except you don't get an adjustable foot box.
It would if I had a road-going BMW. Unfortunately, I'm not quite that privileged yet. 85, pushing on. There is Benjamin Heat, who is now in 6th position. The Chilean behind the wheel. Flashing the blinkers on, as if he's on the Autobahn, trying to close up on the number 3 Get Speed Mercedes. And there in behind him, trying to chase down, that's the 99 car. This time it is Pietro Deliguanti, who has had a very decent run so far over the course of 2023. In fact, the whole team have to be commended for their form so far across the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe season. They've been absolutely fantastic.
His last lap, which is probably his first flying lap, was a 59.3. I would imagine he's looking to see somewhat of an improvement upon that, and watch and see. So everybody's managing to just about get through turn 11 without finding themselves running on that sort of Brighton Beach simulation.
It's looking a bit Western-super-Mare there, isn't it?
It certainly is. Big tides over in Western-super-Mare, one of the biggest tidal rise and falls in the UK. I know you knew that. I knew you knew that. That's the sort of drivel I come out with.
Other beaches are available. So out of the final turn and down the home stretch. Now, this is a car that's already had its difficulties because they had an engine change this morning. The 888 CSA racing car. They've only got 2 drivers this weekend, Arthur Rougier and Owen Creed. But the engine change is ongoing.
So we've only had 52 of the 54 entrants on track. There is one of them. And Okay, it's a big job. You can see the Audi V10. It's a substantial bit of naturally aspirated engineering, and of course you've got the gearbox and all the rest of the gubbins. You have to really just drop the whole lot out under the car to get it out, rather than drop it into the car. So
it's ironically, it's the second engine change this weekend that I'm aware of. The other one is the number 8 AGS Events Lamborghini that had an engine change yesterday, and so now the treble 8 is having similar difficulties, but hopefully that's going to get them ready in time for qualifying tomorrow.
Just noticing one of the mechanics putting a rubber hose. I assume that's because when they refill the system with water, they got to bleed, because if the height of the radiator is lower than the height of the actual top out of the engine, then you have to bleed the system to get all the air out. So that might be what he was doing. But anyway, nobody said anything different, so why not go with it? Jean-Baptiste Simonard in the number 30 Audi, and it's the sister car, the 31 Lewis Proctor, because Adam Carroll not here, Jans Klinsmann and Darren, because Adam's co-driver, I forget his name now, has got a back problem. He's got a nerve in his back, which he's waiting to get some kind of remedial medical treatment, and so he's not in a fit position to drive.
So down to the braking zone for turn 1 as the Iron Dames head out onto the circuit in their Lamborghini once again. And that car is now being driven by Michel Gatting, who was very strong this morning and very strong yesterday in the wet as well. In the dry, it's a very different race circuit, of course. There is the number 12. That's the Conti Audi, the Art of Canada car. And they've got a fast-moving Ferrari behind them. So Sam de Jong is trying to be quite present and not cause too much of an issue, but obviously he's got his own program to focus on.
Yeah, that car, I mean, surprisingly, it was getting much further up this morning. Currently is in 45th position. Again, going through a sort of a job sheet of things we want to find out, get information of, and therefore not really reflecting the natural pace the car would have.
Well, Isaac Tumlu Lopez was getting quite frustrated sat behind that car. He wanted to get it out of the way, as there is the number 24, the Car Collection Porsche. For once, not having everything go their way at the moment. They are 4th out of the 4 Pro-Ams that are out on circuit, which is very unusual for them, considering they've almost won everything except the raffle this year, and the only reason they haven't won that is because there hasn't been one. But the Car Collection Porsche has been stretching its legs out in front in terms of the championship standings. They've got a decent, healthy lead over every single one of their compatriots, largely because obviously last time out of the CrowdStrike Spa 24 Hours, it was the Sun Energy One racing team that got the victory, so thereby taking a lot of decent points off the Car Collection's rivals.
Calm down, it's not Valentino, it's Augusto Farfus behind the wheel of the 46.
Oh, you read my mind.
Oh, Augusto, he likes to throw a car around. I mean, he's got that level of confidence. He just knows that he's on top of the car at every occasion. And watch coming out of 11. Where will the gravel come into play? For Farfus. Stays well to the left of it, not a problem at all.
Well, he's a fantastic racing driver. He spent a decent chunk of last year, of course, racing in the BMW in Super GT, in the GT300 category, and he was flitting between Europe and Japan for most of last year. Here he is in the 46 WRT BMW, drafted in for the endurance races. Quite happy to leave Valle and Maxime to it in the sprints. But you definitely want a decent BMW driver to help push you further forward in these events. There is the championship leading car, the 98 Rove BMW. We haven't seen much of it actually so far, but Marco Wittmann is dialing up a lap. And they've got to be very careful they don't impede a Ferrari behind them, because they look like they are closing in rapidly.
Well, maybe Wittmann has just got himself prepared to now get the pedal to the metal and go on. He's got clear track ahead of him, or relatively clear track, so that's good for the BMW. For the Ferrari following, it's going to be slight compromise. He's not close enough to say, well, I was impeded, because now Wittmann is up to pace and into turn 1, so let's wait and see when he gets through that long first sector, what kind of pace. So there is the view from Wittmann on the BMW, that nice television screen. He's not dialed into Formula 1 at Spa. That's actually the mirror that tells him who's behind him.
That's a terrific bit of kit in the Rove BMW car. needs a mirror when you can have a GoPro, essentially, or a very high-tech version of it, strapped to the panel dashboard of the car. So down the drop, through to the right-hander, and it was Davide Rigon that was actually behind them at the time, starting a flying lap himself, so not impeded on a flyer, but certainly his preparation for the flyer might well have been impeded.
That windward Mercedes up to 9th place, Marcus Sug behind the wheel, and I'm sorry, Marius Sug, not Marcus, Marius Sug behind the wheel. Now whether he recorded the time, I think he might have done, because he's got green, green, green over his 3 sectors, so good effort to get that car up into the top 10.
And significant because, of course, his teammate is David Schumacher, who is pretty much on home soil. Obviously, the family kart circuit just down the road, Kerpen, only a few miles down the road from here, and the family collection is over at Cologne, an hour and a half down the road, so this is very much Schumacher country as well. So it'd be nice to see David Schumacher trying to bid for a pole position in class.
Little adjustment, right hand went on. Now whether that's a brake balance adjustment, there's another adjustment you can see, that yellow scale. I assume that might be an adjustment to maybe dial a little bit more either into the rear or a bit more on the front. I don't know which it is. He went anti-clockwise, so I have to ask my mate in WRT, Vincent Voss, what that actually means.
So across the line for Marco Wittmann, a 1:55.791 is their best time. That last lap was a 1:57.44. Still a long way from pace, and that's the engine being worked on over at the Optimum McLaren team, but it looks like it's just a quick fix.
I mean, where is the motor in it? You can't even see it. It's that low and, in the chassis. So
they know where to find it.
They know where it is, but I mean, it's difficult to work at because the sides of the car are so high. So let's have a look back up at turn 10. And what's going on with the Porsche?
It's the Parker Porsche, isn't it? This is Andy Meyrick. Lovely, lovely little slide. That won't have done the tyres any good at all, but it certainly gave us a nice shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the quickest way around either, but Andy has a myriad of options. Some of the things he does, he writes for the BLGC on the young driver talent, so it comes through in a lovely slow-mo shot of the Porsche, of the Parker Racing Porsche, Stuart Parker. So again, where's that's sort of turn 6, so we're not looking for gravel there.
That was a nice blueprint there of Andy Meyrick. If you're going to get it wrong on entry, this is how you correct it. This is how you fix it. It's very nicely handled there by Andy Meyrick. As we watch,
Christian Engelhardt and the Porsche, I think, has just leapt up to 12th.
Yes, he has.
So that's a small improvement, and we're seeing a few more making their way through.
Right, into the number 11 ComTU Audi comes Kobe Powells. Watch those gravel traps, because we might get some more on track.
Well, maybe he got it out of his system this morning.
I hope so.
Think positive. I mean, and now we're not a comedy show here. We want to see, see progress. And while it's amusing at times, for the team, it does, waste time for the team, potential damage to the car. Anyway, I know he's a young friend.
Yeah, Kobe is a very good friend of mine. I'm sure I owe him an ice cream for that one, and he'll be absolutely fine for that. But he gave me one last week at Paul Ricard, so I'm happy to return the favour. Look at the energy going through the Mercedes there from Zug.
That's impressive. But he hasn't got anything green or purple. So currently in 9th position, 155.1. So what is his last lap going to be? 155.156. So it is. I'm just looking across. Can't do that. No, it wasn't. It was fractionally slower.
Yeah, 155.4. So he was only 0.3 of a second back. There is the only Aston Martin in the field, the Bullet Racing car. Rather a shame that we don't have more of them, because they do look rather spiffing. But Jacob Riegel is behind the wheel of the Bullet Racing car, sharing the number 41, of course, as he is the number 33, I should say. He was 41st position, but he's sharing that car, of course, with Jeff Kingsley and Romain Leroux. So heading out onto the circuit again, and there is the 52 Ferrari just heading back out onto the course. That is Andrea Bertolini behind the wheel.
And the 40 Audi makes its way out as well. Who's behind the wheel? But I'll tell you who is behind the wheel of the 88 Mercedes. It is now Jules Gounod. So we will see whether the pace that we didn't see from Timo Boguslawski over his run, whether there's been an adjustment made to the car, principally a fresher set of rubber, and see what Gounod, currently, as I say, 28th, can drag out of the 88 AKA ASP Mercedes AMG GT3. God, I'm out of breath saying all that.
Well, the speed of car number 46 in the pit lane is now under investigation as we watch the number 2 Get Speed Mercedes drifting slightly wide. Aaron Walker going back to his karting roots there a little bit, but managing to save it quite beautifully.
Yeah, but he gets himself all out of position to go through turn 11. So that was the penalty. Now what are we doing? Are we reattaching the underbody? Need a bit more light in there, chaps. We can't mind read what's going on. It is a Mercedes hyped racing, Jean Mani. So that's the splitter in the front of the car.
That's the car that hasn't come out yet alongside the Treble 8. We know the Treble 8 has got an engine change, but this is the car that's also waiting to get fixed, ready for tomorrow's qualifying. So we did wonder who the 54th car, the 54th crew was. Now we know it is the 79 Haupt Racing team. They didn't have a problem this morning that we knew about, so maybe something has developed in between, or they found something when the session came to an end.
So the 44 is in, Stephen Palette. So they're getting out, they're going to get in, one of the two. That Hexus-sponsored Porsche, very dynamic, dramatic logo on the side. I mean, it's very spectacular. Certainly stands out with the fluorescent orange and silver with black. That reminds me of my crash hat. I should use the same foundation for my crash hat. Fluorescent orange, Mercedes brilliant silver, and then a black sort of line around it. There we are, Jules Gounod up at the top of the circuit. Oh, there we go, green in sector 1. Now that's for Gounod, not for the car.
So let's see what Jules Gounod can do on this flying lap. Looking very smooth and strong. Still just 0.4 of a second away. That's a 41.994 for Jules Gounod as well. This is going to be a much quicker lap than the 88 has managed so far. Whether it's going to displace Maro Engel in the 777 Almanar Mercedes remains to be seen. I don't think it's going to, but it's not far off it as they come off the final turn. 4th, not a bad banker.
Absolutely good out lap, or sorry, good first flying lap for Gounod. Picked up over half a second in that final sector, almost half a second in the first sector, and they've been totally compromised by the Audi creeping down on the racing line, right on the apex, so that'll be a frustration. As we look at the back of the Ferrari. Well, I'll tell you what, there ain't any prisoners been taken there. And quite rightly too, Gounod knew that he had to make that pass and didn't want to get held up unnecessarily, so the Ferrari couldn't disappear into thin air, but Gounod did a good job, made the best of a circumstance, maybe cost him marginally, as he now goes into turn 5, now enters to turn 6, watch on the exit. Just keep an eye on the steering wheel to see how much work on the wheel, not an awful lot. I was going to say from the Frenchman, but he now is an Andorran, isn't he?
He is indeed. Andorran, that beautiful principality in between France and Spain.
Blink and you miss it, apparently.
Yes, indeed. I missed it when I went through it last year. Up through the top. I think that might have been flat.
That was flat. You could hear the bodywork, the splitter in the front. Well, what do you expect? The guy's a racer.
Yeah, he's Jules Gounod. He's not going to do anything less than full chat.
But he doesn't. He hasn't got an improvement. You can see he's 0.4 plus 0.4 in that first sector, coming up to conclusion of the second sector just after this right hand kink, and then you get the line just coming up into the chicane. So what do we got? What colour will it be? Oh, it's the same colour, 0.4 again.
Right, remember that little bit of contact we saw earlier on? The stewards have decided to penalise the number 12 ComTU Audi 10 minutes for causing a collision. So they clearly feel that while it probably wasn't intentional, they should have paid more attention to what they were doing. That's what that penalty is essentially for.
So the number 12 Audi.
That's the De Jong, Hutchison and Hesemans car.
Yes, and that's a Silver Cup car. Being penalised 10 minutes for contact with what was it? There it is, coming into the pits.
Yeah, so they've got to come in and stay stationary for 10 minutes. So that's a big impeding of their progress.
Which car did they have contact with then?
We didn't actually see which car it was from a distance. We certainly knew it was the ComTU Audi that they did make contact with.
Okay, so it must have been either a bronze, most likely a bronze car. I mean, I don't know who was behind the wheel at the time. So you've got Laura's Hazeman, Sam.
It's currently Sam de Jong, but I don't know whether it was him who did it.
We don't know it was the car did it. We don't know the driver was responsible for that. So anyway, 10 minutes in the pits. Yeah, we've got 29 minutes remaining. the minute the sky looks still reasonable, albeit there are sort of greyish looking things floating above bits of the circuit, and whether they will unleash or whether they'll just blow through. There's not a lot of wind. I mean, the wind speed is 4.4 meters per second, so it's not exactly, you know, going to knock the flagpoles over.
No, the biggest rain cloud does appear to be over the Vidal chicane, just behind the pits. But I don't think there's that many rain clouds down at the bottom of the hill either. So if it's going to rain, it's not going to be heavy at all, and it's not going to last long.
Look what's on screen. Look, 46. Look at it. Isn't that lovely? Who's the star driver on that car?
I think it's going to be him getting into the car as well. I think Valentino Rossi is going to take his turn in the car because Maxime Martin's been in, and so has Augusto Farfus. So there is the car, currently stationary in the pits for 10 minutes. Let's have a look at it again. That's a Ferrari, isn't it? Oh, dear, oh dear.
Okay.
So there it is again.
Now I can see why there might have been a thought that that was. I gave it a bit of a buy at the time. I didn't think it was a deliberate, but second time I see it, I think there was actually a clear move to the left.
I'll tell you who it was they nudged. It was the Barwell Lamborghini. That was the Collard and Lind car by the look of it.
Yep.
So very difficult problem there for the number 12 ComTU Audi, and they've got to sit there for 10 minutes now. And yeah, that definitely gives them a bit of a headache. Speaking of 10 minutes, I'll tell you who has been in the pits for over 10 minutes. Pietro Deleguanti in the 99 Audi that we saw spin off in the hands of Lorenzo Patrese. They've been in the pits for over 10 minutes, as has the number 63 Grassa Lamborghini. Andrea Caldarelli hasn't come out in the last 10 minutes or so either. So I don't know whether that's because they've got a problem or they're just running through a cycle of their strategy, whatever it might be. But certainly two cars that we haven't seen on the road for a while, as the Iron Dames Lamborghini is being hunted down by the leading car in the rankings at the moment, Maro Engel.
Matteo Drudi, we haven't seen him all day, and he's just popped in his first flying lap. Certainly this afternoon at a 155.4, which places him just one position outside the top 20.
So good to see Matteo Drudi getting up to speed. Team manager of car number 12 to the stewards immediately. We know the reason why, as we have the 83 of Michel Gatting in the Iron Dames Lamborghini. They haven't really put in any fast laps yet. They're currently in 50th of the 52 cars that are out there. Two cars obviously off the road, and we now know which ones they are. The 79 Haupt Mercedes, which is repairing damage to the underside of the car by the look of it, and the 888 CSA Racing Audi that has an engine change currently ongoing. But there is Michel Gatting in the Iron Dames Lamborghini, hoping to move up the ranks.
And I suspect that she will do, because certainly coming through the exit of turn 3, she didn't spare any of the racetracks. In fact, she had half the car inside the apex of the corner. Such is her commitment to try and find a lap that will take that car significantly further up its timing and scoring. It's currently, as you mentioned, 50th overall, but not representative of the pace of this package, you know, the Iron Dames. And that beautifully, very noticeable pink Lamborghini.
Yeah, 55.5 for the first sector as well, so she is finding the pace. It's not the fastest by any means. It's still 1.4 away from the fastest we've had, but then considering they are not in the same category as the pros, they're still pushing hard. So there is Michel Gatting. Oh, this is going to be Gilles Gounod really finding a little bit more of the racetrack than was necessary.
Yeah, he got into trouble in the first part of the Schumacher race as the back came out. Had to put the lock on. Here we go on board. Let's have a look and see. That's 83.
Yes, this is on board with Gatting to finish the lap. What's she done in the second split? 42.7. That's not bad at all. So let's see how this is going to finish off for Michel Gatting. I imagine they're not going to stay 50th for long if this is a clean lap as well. So across the line, Michel Gatting, what have they done? Oh, they do remain 50th. The third sector was not quite as strong in the end.
Right,
so,
okay. Seat yourself down, strap yourself in, ride with Gilles Gounod, up in, watch the hands go, oh, there we had to make a very quick correction, and all of a sudden, it all goes, wow, wow, wow.
Don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall.
It all happens so quickly, there's nothing that Gounod can do, he's just having to ride it out, keep the car, and that's how quickly it all happens.
Well done, Jules. That was well saved under the circumstances. The last thing you want to do is put the fastest car from this morning into the wall and give your mechanics a mammoth job ready for tomorrow morning. So well saved. But fourth position, 154.6, half a second away from the Almanar Mercedes. That is nowhere near panic stations. They're doing very well considering, and they've got something smooth to come for qualifying tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, again, we can get overexcited about why something's happening or something isn't happening. The teams have got a job list, they've got a schedule, they work through that schedule, a part of which is to give each driver a reasonable amount of seat time, and they might want to make some subtle changes or some less subtle changes, and they're running on tyres that have done a lot of miles, and they might have a load of fuel on board to try and simulate what it's going to be, and it goes on, and it goes on.
Well, there is the K-Pax Racing Lamborghini. Frank Pereira at the wheel of that one. And now we're looking at Mattia Drudi. Just as you mentioned earlier that he'd set his first fast lap, well, he's on a pretty good lap at the moment. Only 4/10 away from the pace. Yeah, if he keeps that together, that'll be top 5.
But it's net because Sector 1, Sector 2 have cancelled each other out. So he picks up 1 position. So he's gained fractionally because his last sector time was actually significantly better than previously. But the first 2 sector times netted each other out. So he's gone from 21st to 20th, and it goes to Farfus in the 46 BMW. So just keep an eye on.
Back out on circuit.
Matteo Drudi. I do like the way Drudi, he is what I call a racer. Again, has a strong run in the Spa, 24 hours, just at the end of June into the beginning of July. Now we're at the virtual end of July, and where's July gone? So it's gone in the heartbeat as far as I'm concerned.
He definitely was one of the stars of the CrowdStrike Spa 24 Hours. He absolutely rose to the occasion. He was determined to get Audi onto the podium. Did a fabulous job. Certainly in the first 6 hours, he was one of the gladiators of the race.
Just looking up and down at all the track time cancellations, 90%, if not more, are all on the exit of turn 4. And some at turn 17, which I suspect is coming on to start-finish straight. So, car 19, cancellation of current lap time, track limit, turn 17 at 13:37.
Another speed in the pit lane under investigation. That infringement is going the way of the number 56 car. That's the dynamic Porsche of Tanis Theodocool, John Rapage and Daniele Diamato.
And also 159, Benjamin Goethe. That last lap time has been cancelled likewise.
Like to see
into the pits for Matteo Drudi.
Yeah, was pushing 215 kilometers an hour by the time he got to the turning point for that chicane. So,
oh, slow down, Matteo. You get the old motorway effect there. The car ahead of you comes to a dead stop, and you're still doing significantly more than 50 kilometers per hour, Matteo.
It's the concertina effect.
Nobody's going to tell him.
No, indeed, no. We didn't see it. Michelle Gatting has just done a 156.2. We saw her earlier on, and that puts them up into 44th position for the time being. But it's still the 777 Almanar Mercedes that leads the way at the moment from Rolf Innichen in the Iron Lynx Lamborghini. They're doing a great job. Then it's the McLaren of Nikolai Kiergaard, the 159 Garage 59 car that is in 3rd position. Raffaele Marcello has got behind the wheel of the Acadis ASP Mercedes now. Time to give Jules a little bit of an early bath for the moment. He's pushed it very hard. Giovanni Van Berlo is there in 5th position now in the GRT Grasser, the silver car, in 5th position. And Charlie Fagg has got behind the wheel of the number 5 Optima McLaren, and they are in 6th ahead of Patrese in the Trezor Attento Audi in 7th.
The Thema Motorsport Mercedes, just that sort of turquoisey coloured Mercedes, that's the car that Rima Jafali is a part of, and run in effect by Mark Hayes, former race driver himself, very successful, also a close confidant of Lewis Hamilton for many, many years now, branching out into management and not controlling, looking after the fortunes and future of Rima Jafali as she progresses, the first Saudi lady woman race driver. And of course we're going to be going to Saudi back end of 2024, and that's going to be an experience on a fantastic racetrack.
Oh,
now there is a real white knuckle ride racetrack, believe me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a really exciting end to the 2024 Fanatec GT campaign. Check this out. These are the top speeds. Jacob Riegel is actually the fastest man so far in terms of straight line pace.
And there is the Aston just coming into view now. Now, makes me wonder, why is the Aston Martin the quickest car in a straight line? And all I can imagine is they're running a little bit less aero on the car than those around them.
Check out the car that's second fastest. That's John Miller in the Rinaldi Ferrari. 248 kilometers an hour to the top speed. That's pretty rapid for a car that currently finds itself in 49th position, with Samantha Tan now behind the wheel. But John Miller, it started raining. It started raining at the bottom end. We've got spots of rain on the camera lens, and the Aston very nearly losing it, getting back on the throttle out of turn 2. So it's been a perfectly dry session all the way through, but you can see a few cars already on the windscreen wipers. Rain has hit the circuit again.
So has it hit the entirety of the circuit, or is it the typical Nürburgring weather where you get these little isolated rain spot showers? And inevitably, if it does continue, I mean, it might just have been sort of a rogue cloud that thought we're going to torment them all at Nürburgring this afternoon. Get them all diving into the pits thinking it's going to go wet, and I'm going to just drift off to the horizon.
So let's see how this continues to progress. There is the car that is the second fastest car in a straight line, 248 kilometers an hour. Samantha Tan is currently behind the wheel. But this is where the cars were starting to get a little bit slippy.
Do you think that that Ferrari is quicker than all the other Ferraris consistently, or is it just a one-off? Because we haven't seen of course the cars anywhere near that.
Well, of course, in terms of straight line speed, that's one thing, but as we all know in motor racing, it's not straight line speed that counts on a circuit, it's mechanical grip, and that's where the 49...
But here's the conclusion. If you haven't got the lap time, at least you get your name on the fastest in a straight line.
Oh, absolutely.
And you get the credit for that.
Whoa! That was a big washout from the Lamborghini. Goodness
oh, dear me. Yes, that was definitely, again, the underside of the car, you know, the floor diffuser. I mean, that one definitely has got to go into the Christmas video. Let's have a look at it again and have a good old, gets it wrong in the middle of the chicane. That's why he then was too wide, too early in the exit from the chicane. Did well to keep the car pointing in the right direction.
Good save, Fabrizio. That was pretty tricky from Cristani, but he managed to save that by riding the curb. A little bit like a skateboarder. That was more Tony Hawk's than it was Tony Brooks, but very nicely done there from Fabrizio Cristani.
Who's Tony Brooks?
You wouldn't know him.
Well, I know Tony Brooks. I know who Tony Brooks is.
Anyway.
A great British racing driver from the 50s and early 60s.
Indeed.
Is that the one you're referring to?
That is the one I'm referring to.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tony Brooks never drove like that.
No, indeed. He was much smoother.
100%.
Kind of racing driver that would have kept his dentist tool bag in the boot just in case as well.
Well, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of drivers. John Sheldon's a dentist as well. And in fact, he often has to perform a little bit of dental work when he's on holiday. Some of his mates rock up and stay in the same hotel. Oh, John, can you help me? Got an impacted wisdom tooth.
Right, Glenn Van Berlo up to 5th position, the leading silver car, pushing hard out of the chicane and up the climb to the Vidal. As we've got two Mercedes just in front. One of them is the number 2 Get Speed Mercedes of Lance Bergstein, and in front as well as the 81 Mercedes. That is Ralph Aron, who is behind the wheel, but in comes Van Berlo. It looks like it was just a mild scare of a shower, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it's held.
That was my thought, because the raindrops, you can almost count them on the camera lens. And again, you know, whatever the wind is, not a lot of wind, but it has picked up fractionally. So it probably just caught in the cloud, the errant cloud, the rogue cloud, and chased it away.
So down through the hairpin, we are watching the 44 Porsche making its way back up the climb. It's Clement Mathieu, who is up in 12th position. He was almost a mobile chicane at times in practice 1, not in practice 2.
Well, he's certainly getting a workout from behind. So the Mercedes all over the back, and again, wipers. Did you notice that?
Yes, indeed.
Wipers up at the top of the circuit, up at turn 10.
Well, it's the Mad Panda car. That was one of the first to take to the windscreen wipers, but everybody else appears to have stopped. I wonder if they're jammed on.
Could be. I mean, it's easy with your hand to, in the middle of sort of a lot of wheel movement, to clip the stalk that would operate the wipers on the steering column.
That's how I drive. I usually knock that column. My windscreen wipers are usually on longer than they should be.
Jake, you've got an excuse.
No excuses. No excuses at all. Here is the Barwell Lamborghini. Dennis Lind currently up at the front end. A 155.2 for that car. And they are 15th overall, so very impressive from the Barwell team.
Yes, I mean, I think Jack Barwell, they run a really, what I would call, tight ship. And it's great to see Dennis Lind, who in the television side of this operation, we love Dennis Lynn because he is one of the great personalities and characters in the paddock, but also great racing driver, and I say racer and racing driver.
Beautiful noise.
He's pretty late in the brakes, coming up almost about 60 metres before he would be turning into the chicane. Car dives off to the left, or to the right, I beg your pardon, and Dennis gets into the final turn, picks up the throttle, tries to keep it nice and progressive, and squeezes it to the point where he's exiting, is on full throttle.
And over the line, is this going to be an improvement for Dennis Lind? It is
Yes.
indeed. 1:55.1. That's pretty good.
And what did his hand signal? You can't get him off the wheel. Maybe he's just stretching his fingers a little bit there, but anyway.
Up to 11th position. So that's very tidy indeed from the Barwell Lamborghini crew, as Raffaele Marcello looks like he's going to have one final crack at the whip.
Just over 13 minutes remaining, so Raffaele. Qualifying takes place in the morning when track conditions will be totally different, ambient will be different, track might even be wet for all we know if it follows the pattern that we've seen overnight into this morning. Nevertheless, it's a part of the whole procedure. You're putting a little bit more fuel in now. They're putting in, I wonder how much fuel, that's quite a lot of fuel they're putting into the car, because that fuel barge has been attached for more than, enough to do a quick flying lap or two.
So here is Frederik Vervisch in the ComTU Racing Audi. And there is now a change in the fastest lap times at that particular chicane. So 159 kilometers an hour at the chicane, and you can see how even it's paced. You've got five drivers hitting exactly the same point.
Yeah, so you've got a Lamborghini, an Audi, a Ferrari, another Lamborghini, and a BMW. So sort that one out. Who's got the advantage there? Well, it seems it's all pretty even, Stevens.
Speaking of the differences in the brands, we've got the Mercedes up in the front, and we've got another one in 4th place for Marcello. McLaren are currently 3rd and 6th. Ferrari have Fuoco in 9th position and Nielsen down in 27th. Audi are there or thereabouts. They've got one in the top 10, and they've got 4 more in the top 20. Porsche are knocking on the door of the top 10, but haven't actually made it in yet. There are 3 Lamborghinis in the top 10. Very impressive from them. Rolf Innichen in the Iron Lynx car in 19th position, and then we've got the GRT Grasser cars of Glenn Van Berlo and Fabrizio Cristani. They are in the mix as well in the top 10.
Now, have I blinked and missed it, or have we not seen Robert Schwartzman out in the Ferrari number 51A, of course?
That's a good point. I haven't seen Hyde nor tail of Robert Schwartzman either this afternoon or this morning.
I'm coming to the same conclusion.
Yeah. Is he sat out for the day? Very interesting.
Maybe he got something, often at night, having an evening meal, something doesn't agree. I mean, it could be a load of other factors, but I just don't recall seeing his name at any time on timing.
No, indeed. I've seen him. He's here. He's definitely here. I spoke to him yesterday. So whether they've just decided to rest him for the day and then he'll come back ready for qualifying tomorrow, I hope that's the case.
Can't imagine any reason for doing that, but it's not to say that it isn't the case. So the Barwell Lamborghini down at the bottom of the circuit, and still Dennis the Menace Lind behind the wheel. This lap's not going to make any significance. Still a good first sector time, 54.6, but it's not green or purple. Love the way the body language is. He's a strong lad. He just muscles that car through the chicane, on top of it at every second behind the wheel.
Once again, the interesting talking point, though, coming into qualifying tomorrow, based on this, is the absence from the top 20 of BMW, because the leading car is the 46 car. I think it was Maxime Martin that set that lap. Might have been Farfus, but Valentino Rossi behind the wheel now. You've got the 2 Rove BMWs just squeaking inside the top 30, 29th and 30th, as we ride on board with Dennis Lind again. And the WRTs, the other WRTs, are almost nowhere. Vantor is in 33rd. The number 30 car of Callan Williams is down in 30th. Lewis Proctor is down in 45th. The BMWs are almost absent.
Hold your breath. What we've seen here today will have no bearing whatsoever what we will see in qualifying in the morning.
It's a fair point.
It's slightly more than a fair point. Again, we've got a 3-hour endurance race. It will be what happens in the race. Now, clearly, starting positions are absolutely foundation to any success. I suspect that by the time we get through four bits of qualifying, or certainly 3 qualifying sessions, because only 3 drivers maximum per car, that we'll have a BMW or more than one in the top 10, and could easily be in the front 2 or 3 rows of the grid. Now, which of the BMWs it's going to be, that's a separate matter.
Well, there is Ralf Heineken in the Iron Lynx Lamborghini, the number 19 car that he shares with Leonardo Pulcini and Michele Beretta. And that car is still solid in second place at 154.488. That's got to be a game changer, because the Lamborghini season has been pretty woeful up to this point.
Has Dennis Lind improved yet again, or is it just me?
No, he has.
He's into 8th position. Yes, he was 9th, he's up to 8th now.
Yeah, 155.0 for Dennis Lind. So within a second now of the Mercedes on the top. So very impressive from Dennis Lind. Let's talk a little bit about Lamborghini, because let's be fair, the Spa 24 Hours for the Lamborghini brand was one to forget as far as they're concerned. So this is, oh, look at the rain coming down now. There's absolutely no doubt that it's raining now. That's proper heavy down at the hairpin.
So once you see wheel tracks on this is coming out of the chicane. So the BMW there just left a picture, slowed down. The Lamborghini likewise slowing down, coming up through the Schumacher S's.
Oh,
and wow, this is what happens at Nürburgring.
And there's big gravel left in the chicane in the middle there as well.
That's the consequence of somebody, I think it might have been, was that Jules Gunnar that was responsible for some of it, maybe not all of it. So nobody's running their wipers though, interestingly.
No, indeed. But certainly at the bottom end of the hairpin, it's all, goodness, look at the gravel.
It's awful.
It is, isn't it?
It's ugly, actually, to see it on the track.
So they'll obviously have to clear that up in time for the next session on track. But now there you go, you see the windscreen wipers going on Sheldon van der Linde's BMW.
So I assume they're all going to come in. Well, the Lamborghini's going to stay out, but Sheldon van der Linde's opted to come in. So the 19 Lambo continues on its way.
It's actually Dries van Tor behind the wheel, I do apologise. As into the pits comes the 62 Parker Porsche of Derek Pierce. And then you've got several others coming in as well. But as you say, Rolf Heineken in the Lamborghini staying out.
Interesting, Philip Ellis in the 57 Winward Racing Mercedes. It's popped up now to the top 20 in 20th position. It's one of the very few improvers in the last number of laps. So it's a bit of a division of what people feel. They can see a single spot of rain at the very bottom of the camera lens there, or else that's the fly that didn't make it past the lens.
Well, Gemma Scott is going to be down in the pits with the man who was so strong this morning and the team that is so strong this afternoon, Leonardo Pulcini, as we watch the number 19 of Rolf Heineken. And Gemma is with Leonardo. Let's find out how things are going.
Leonardo, that looks to have been a pretty good session for you guys. Second overall and leading class.
Yeah, we're working really well. It's looking like a strong weekend for us until now. It's good also for us as a confidence, as a team. We want to come back and it's looking a really strong weekend. We have a really good package. So yeah, let's hope also on the forecast for tomorrow morning. Me and my teammates, we are working really well together. Iron Lynx is making a good job with the Lamborghini, so let's see for the weekend.
Do you think this is reflective of what we're going to see in qualifying tomorrow morning?
Sorry?
Do you think this is reflective of what we'll see in quali tomorrow?
I'm feeling really strong in the car this weekend. We have a really good car, so let's see tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Well, he certainly seems pretty confident, seems pretty happy. We still have a few cars out there in the wet conditions. Absolutely no doubt that the rain's coming down now. Look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you can almost see the size of the raindrops down into turn 5, and you need to be tippy-toey through here. And you can just see how twitchy the car gets once those tyres begin to pick up the moisture. Because the tyres are still warm from running in dry conditions, they can deal with the initial amount of liquid on the racetrack. But gradually, the water on the track will take over down at the bottom of the hill. Again, just be very careful, and if you get offline, then just bail out of the throttle at the earliest chance.
Right, question, John. We've got 5 minutes to go. The rain has come down heavily. There are cars still out there on dry tyres. Why stay out?
In case this happens in the race, to see how far you can go before you have to make a commitment to come into the pits. So these clouds are going to come and go. Now, whether this is going to be a sort of a major rain occurrence, or whether it's going to be something that's going Do you dive into the pits? Mummy, it's raining. Give me some wet weather tires. Or do you stay out, man it up?
Absolutely. Do you learn what the car's going to do and adapt to it? So,
and I think that's what Gunar's trying to do, is just see how far they can go now he comes into the pits.
but
He's had enough. He's had that lap, and he's got a bit of information to give to the team.
that's really important knowledge to take into tomorrow, of course, for Raffaele Marcello. So he's done a fair job there. Pretty much, there's only about a handful of cars still in. I think most teams have decided, you know what, that's it, we'll call it.
Yeah, I think it's time for the highlights package, isn't it?
Very nearly. 4 minutes left to go. There could well be one more highlight to throw in, you never know. But for this car, I think they're done and dusted. Fabian Schiller out there in the Almanar Racing Mercedes. And the three-pointed star has done a fantastic job. This morning, they did a good run. However, this afternoon, they've proved that the Mercedes is still here to come and play. And
I think the reason Schiller has gone out is to get information, learn just what the conditions are like at this phase. You're in almost like a transitional phase in terms of grip levels on the racetrack. So go out, and you can still see there's a bit of rain falling up at the high point into turn 10, and then the back to 11. So he also is sufficiently wet to have to put on his wipers. Anyway, it's all about information. So 88 has done that. Now the Almanar Racing Mercedes is doing it. So he's not going at racing speed, but he will know just by the feel, the feedback he gets through the seat of his pants, through his feet, through his hands, through his entire body. And that is not the lap he's on. That's the fastest lap he set somewhat earlier in the session.
But look, he set it on the 6th lap of the session. So that just shows you how early on they found the pace.
Well, I mean, I would suggest that that was the point at which the tyre he's on was at its best.
When you look at the likes of Marcello, Glenn Van Berlo and Sam Neary, for example, who managed to do it on about lap 21, lap 22, lap 23, you know, that took them a long time to find it by comparison, but the Mercedes was right on the bubble immediately and no one could get near it. 0.3 of a second is the distance between the Almanar Mercedes and the Iron Lakes Lamborghini in second place.
They should almost get a penalty for having that advantage over everybody else. I mean, you know, level playing field and all that.
I love your sentiment, absolutely, but I have a feeling it'll be a lot closer in qualifying tomorrow somehow.
I guarantee you it will definitely be. I suspect we'll have over 20 cars covered by under a second.
Wonderful. That's exactly what we love about the Fanatec GT World Challenge. It always provides action. It always provides close battles. We're definitely going to see that in qualifying tomorrow. Of course, the session split into 3 qualifying sessions, and then the average time is taken from the 3 laps. We are very excited about how that's going to go. So we've seen the 777 out on circuit. Let's have a word with Mauro Engel, who was behind the wheel, doing a fantastic job in the practice. He's with Gemma Scott.
Mauro, we were just looking at the timing screens together and saying what a mix there is still within the top 10, really. But Mercedes seem to be looking to be the favourite perhaps this weekend.
It's a bit early for that, obviously. You never know who runs what fuel load in these sessions, so we'll wait until qualifying. But our car's running well, the team's done a good job, and Fabi put in a very strong lap in that session, yeah.
Rover Racing have been really strong this year. They've had a podium every single race. Do you think they're going to come back and be competitive over the course of the weekend, and any trouble for you?
Well, they've been incredibly strong the whole year, so I guess you know, you kind of say you hope not, but I guess the last 3 races have taught us otherwise. They've been very strong, and I'm expecting them near the front tomorrow as well.
Well, have a good weekend. Thank you. I wish you the best of luck.
Fantastic stuff then from Fabian Schiller and Mauro Engel, along with their teammate Lucas Stoltz. They did a fabulous, fabulous job. Great to hear from Mauro Engel there in conversation with Gemma Scott as we get to the final 22 seconds of the session. And I can tell you that every single car is now in pit lane as the rain comes down properly now outside our commentary box window. John, that's looking like proper Nürburgring rain.
Yeah, I mean, it's still patches of blue sky all around, but contrasted by big, I don't know, you call it cumulus nimbus, but big fluffy clouds, you know, interspersed between the blue sky, and they have released their liquid.
Cumulus nimbus, that's the best thing you've ever called me, John. Love it.
Well, don't start me.
It's the end of a fabulous pre-qualifying session. That was very entertaining because we got to see Mercedes, Lamborghini and McLaren really having done their homework between the 2 sessions as well. BMW still very much keeping their cards up their sleeve for the time being. I don't think we've really seen all that we're going to see from them. Audi, close or thereabouts. Porsche with potential to do something spicy in qualifying tomorrow, maybe. Ferrari, yet again, you just never know, do you? That's the thing. You just don't know whether it's going to be converted into pace. So, Gemma Scott is down in pit lane with Philipp Eng of the Rove BMW team. They have done a fantastic job so far in terms of the championship. Why are they lingering down at the back? Let's find out.
Philip, looking at the timing screens, you guys are down all the way down in the 31st position right now. Is this a problem? Is this reflective of what we're going to expect to see over the weekend?
Well, we had quite a difficult day today. Yesterday was pretty good, actually, in the test sessions, but we're chasing the balance a little bit. But I would say on my new tire run, there was not much left in it, and we are 1.2 seconds off the pace. So I feel like we almost maximized our package, and we just couldn't do any better today.
Seems to be a problem for all the BMWs. I was talking to Thomas Neubauer just a little bit earlier on, and he said nothing's good.
Well, the car is quite difficult to drive, but we found a way to set it up in a good way. But at the moment, I don't think this is in our hands.
Well, look, we've seen you on the podium at every race so far. Nothing is written yet.
I like your optimism. I'm always optimistic, but if nothing changes for tomorrow, then I think that's where we will be.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. I hope it improves.
Thank you.
I mean, what Philip's sort of saying, was it a coded message? Nothing changes for tomorrow. We're not going to be in a strength. I mean, we saw a balance of performance change, benefit to BMW in Misano 2 weeks ago in that sprint round, and that led to victory for the 46 car. And, of course, the 98 car won in Spa 24 hours. I mean, it's difficult to understand precisely what Philipp Eng was saying about where we are, but they need to improve.
Fascinating stuff. The Almanar Mercedes on the top, the Iron Lynx Lamborghini in second, and the Garage 59, number 159 McLaren in third. Good run from the GRT Grasser, number 85. Schmidt, Hitz, and Van Berlo up in the top 5. Not bad from the Optimum McLaren either. Very good indeed from the Barwell Lamborghini, up in 8th position for the leaders in Pro-Am. Good to see the CLRT guys getting back up to speed again in the Porsche. Makoviecki, Paulette, and Mathieu leading their class. And there's a lot of interesting cars down the order. The Ritronik Porsche a long way back. The Trezor Orange Audi a long way back. And the BMWs almost conspicuous by absence in the first page of the timing screen. The number 46 crew all the way down in 26th. The 998 crew that topped the times yesterday in 30th. And the championship leaders 31st. Is that going to be the way the whole weekend plays out? Will BMW be down there for the entirety of the next day or so? Your guess is as good as ours. Could be very interesting to see how it plays out going into qualifying tomorrow. But it certainly makes things very interesting and intriguing in terms of the championship fight. Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting qualifying session tomorrow based on what we saw in pre-qualifying this afternoon. A lot still to be written here at the Nürburgring. Dry running and a bone-dry circuit for the start of pre-qualifying. Everybody trying to maximize their package and hope that they can get some fast laps on the board. Everybody pushing very hard indeed. Lorenzo Patrese finding a very tough braking zone. Ferrari strong initially. Dan Serra managing to finish the session in the Ferrari in 10th position. So there's still potential. McLaren looking strong, both for the 159 Garage 59 car and the Optima McLaren of Charlie Fagg and co. up there in the top 10. Not a bad run either for the 44 Porsche. CLRT boys in 13th in the end and leading in class. Very strong indeed for the Barwell Lamborghini as well. Not everybody got it right, as a lot of gravel ended up being deposited in various points on the course. The 88 Mercedes that topped the times this morning, able to go 4th this time, so still very much in contention. Even Gilles Gounon found it hard going, pushing just a little over the limit. Fortunately keeping it out of the wall, leaving the mechanics very little to do ready for tomorrow. But McLaren is definitely on the rise. 3rd and 6th for the brand, up in the top 10, doing a great job in pre-qualifying. And how about this for the Iron Lynx Lamborghini? 2nd position. After a brilliant day in the office, they look like they've got a good car. However, the Almanar Mercedes is the one that tops pre-qualifying. As we head into qualifying tomorrow, it could be the 3-pointed star all over the place here at the Nürburgring.